Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. Be sure to check me out over on Rumble. There you'll find all of my stuff from YouTube, plus my political and social commentary and weekly current events, which YouTube frowns on. Links to my Rumble channel, as well as my other YouTube channels, and links to let you order my books are in the description of this video. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. Now, on with the video. Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an advanced Dungeons & Dragons advice video on story versus rules. This is an addendum to the previous video of that title. I did a video a while back called Story versus Rules, wherein I made it perfectly clear that the story can never, ever, ever trump the rules. If the players ever get the idea that the Dungeon Master's NPCs can circumvent the rules, then your game is done. Your game is literally done. They will never trust you again, and this is absolutely true. Believe me when I say that this is a campaign ender. You understand? It will end your campaign. Now, one thing I've found that gets players rattled is when they think that an NPC is doing something that they couldn't normally do. There is, of course, an explanation for the situation, and it is well within the rules, but for whatever reason, that explanation eludes the players for the moment. For example, one of my major villains in a campaign I was running was a vampire. He acted as a vampire, and the group had figured out that he was indeed a vampire. They were all in on it, and they knew he was a vampire. They thought he was they thought that he couldn't do anything outside during daylight, so they were pretty safe there. Then he attacked them in broad daylight. They barely survived and had to flee the battle. I got a lot of questioning looks, and of course, the accusations started. I simply smiled and said, well, if he's a vampire, then the sunlight should have fried him, right? They began yelling and cursing at me because they had proven that he was a vampire. They knew he was a vampire. There was no way that couldn't happen. And I simply smiled again and said, okay, so if he's a vampire, what then? This got my players to thinking. They began researching and investigating, and after a long while, they ultimately discovered that this particular vampire had a ring that prevented him from taking damage from sunlight, among other specified sources. They were able to separate him from the ring. They actually chopped his hand off, and he died like any other vampire. And that's the key, okay? If you can make it seem like there's other stuff going on, it makes your players think. It gets their focus on something else. It shifts the focus. I did a video on that a while back. Go check it out. It appeared that this villain could bypass the rules, but in reality, he could not. There were extenuating circumstances which the group was able to cancel by chopping off his hand and get rid of the ring. This is only one example of curveballs that can make the game interesting and force players to think and investigate. One of the really, really great things about Dungeons and Dragons is the role-playing aspect. In that game, they were trying to research this situation, and they found that they needed library research. They needed to talk to people who were learned, sages, things like that. And so this group was traveling from city to city, expending lots of money and resources to try to figure out why this vampire could stand out in sunlight and not get fried. You know what I'm saying? And it was a big deal, and it took a while in game time, and it gave them opportunities to role play with NPCs that weren't out to kill them. It gave them the opportunity to be normal people, per se, or as normal as they can get in a role-playing game. My contention here is sometimes you got to throw them curveballs. Sometimes there's got to be things they don't understand so that they can research and find things out. If a player figures out that they know everything and there are no surprises left in the game, then yeah, it's going to be a dull game. And the last thing you want your players to think is, damn, he runs a dull game. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep them on their toes. You got to keep throwing curveballs. You got to keep giving them things to figure out. Because if they can't figure it out, if there's nothing to figure out, all hacking and slashing, they may as well run a video game. You know, and that's the last thing we want, because video games are antithetical to tabletop role playing. Not that I don't enjoy video games, but if no tabletop role playing games are what we did before video games, and they, in my opinion, they're better because they allow interaction with people, not just online. So, you know, I think that if everybody stopped playing tabletop role playing games and went to just hardcore online gaming, even with other people, our world will seriously suffer in real life, because you're not getting social interaction with people. You're just talking to them online, and there's not a comparison. I'm sorry, there's no comparison to that. At any rate, keep throwing your players curveballs, but remember, it's got to be legal curveballs. All right, keep that in mind, because if they find out the rules really don't apply, then you're screwed. Hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all. There is a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out. When the police detective, who happens to be a skinwalker squirrel, uncovers a plot by a paranormal perpetrator, he has to enlist the aid of his fellow housemates. If you enjoy a modern, quirky take on historical mythology, check out my new original novel, The House Off Farrago Road.